What are you watching out for in terms of demand side inflation? Are you already seeing that? Because even if the inflation is elevated in the US, there is a lot of demand, and that's what they've been saying ahead of a possible recession, of course. But here, are we seeing that at all? Are we seeing that the inflation might go up because of the reopening of the economy? And how are you looking at that?
Right, so there's a very different dynamic with the demand push in the United States compared here. For example, in the United States, they did introduce a lot of subsidies ranging in the thousands of dollars. And it really gave a lot of American consumers the ability to spend money. They were able to, for example, pay off their debts. Some of them were able to purchase new consumer goods, durable consumer goods, and a lot of them were able to just spend that money without taking on employment. That's why there was also a job shortage of sorts there. Here in the Philippines, we had a much smaller targeted subsidies, which were really only targeted towards the lowest income families. And we saw that Filipino households spent these more on food and our basic necessities, right? So I think what we're just seeing is as the economy continues to open up, we're seeing a recovery back to the pre-pandemic economic activity. And that's a good thing. That's a good sign. I don't see demand so far as being the main driver of inflation here in the Philippines. It's really more of a cost issue, a cost push issue, especially with the increasing prices of Dubai crude, for example, which increased year on year by 64% compared to last year. It's already at 108 US dollars per barrel compared to around 66 in May of 2021. We're seeing pump prices rise to almost 100 pesos per liter here for gasoline. So these will impact, for example, transport costs. These will impact fertilizer costs, which will in turn probably impact the price of agricultural commodities as well. So inflation-wise, we're seeing some increases in other food commodities aside from rice.
Okay, given that, do you have at least any forecast on when do you see inflation peaking and at what level?
Yes, it's quite difficult to say at this point with the Russia-Ukraine conflict going on. We can expect that oil prices will continue to rise. Although we don't depend a lot on Russian oil supply, we do depend on the OPEC supply. And of course, I think at this point, OPEC is still trying to maximize the profits that they can gain. Especially they're trying to recoup the losses that they experienced during the heightened lockdowns in 2020. So it's really difficult to forecast. But right now, I see in the short term, at least, prices will continue to go up, at least for fuel prices.
Okay. Food security as well is going to be a top agenda for the next administration, what with the incoming president at least designating himself as DA chief. What should be on top of the agenda here for Marcos as DA secretary, especially in the first 100 days?
Right. So I think the importance of structural reforms comes into play here. So for example, we passed the rice tariffication law in 2019 that made our rice supply more stable, right? That's why what I mentioned earlier is that rice inflation is just 1.5% compared to the overall headline rate of 5.4%. So we're seeing the benefits of having a more resilient supply chain. But at the same time, the RTL introduced strategic subsidies towards our rice farmers, helping them be more productive through, for example, providing mechanization, providing them with seeds. So I think in terms of our agriculture, what the government or what President Marcos can do is he can provide also strategic subsidies towards the agricultural commodities that are essential to us. So for example, again, rice, but also in the transport sector, we can also introduce strategic subsidies because fuel is a major input to agricultural output, especially in terms of fertilizers, which depend on organic fuels as well.